Welcome to another wisdom class with Charlie. Now, excuse me, first of all, for this, because I'm improvising in this setup. I've lost internet connection. I've had to film this on OBS. I've been moving around furniture all day, and I'm making sure this lesson and this class is recorded nonetheless. And this is going to be on business basics. The fundamentals of business, the fundamentals of basically any business that you're running, online, physical, is very, very important to understand. And I know this sounds basic, but it's what everyone skips. And no one truly seems to have a clear idea. And I will say this, because it's not the most fun part of the business, it's very easily neglected. And I'm going to go through that today. I'm going to go through at a nice pace. I'm recording this with someone in particular in mind, as I'm just starting to work with someone else again now. But this applies to anyone that owns a business, or even is very beneficial for anyone that's in a business to understand a little bit about what kind of structure you need in place for it to even grow and scale, and for you to feel comfortable and have some kind of parameters. So, yeah, it's good. Coffee, local honey. So, it's going to be very simple. I'm not going to draw it. I'm not going to draw it because it will take up a lot of space, but imagine a pie chart. Right? A pie chart. Your business is the pie. And the idea of the business is that you are making, at the very minimal, the same amount as you're spending. So you're breaking even. That's the most important thing. If you can't break even, you're running a charity. And more importantly, a charity that gets into debt, because most charities are actually quite profitable. There's some really good charities out there where people are actually charitable and they give things away for free. Most charities operate as a business. Why? So they can scale it. And some maybe ethical lines there. But the basics I'm going to start with is sales here. And this will make more sense as I start to flow along. So we got sales. We're going to work in percentages because percentages, of course, are intuitive. So, sales. I allocate, and I'm going to go for minimals here. And disclaimer, imagine it coming across your screen. This is not a one-size-fits-all. Some businesses have unbelievable overhead costs. Some businesses have zero cost. It's just labor and time. So, understand it's very subjective. This is going to be a basic. Sales. I like to allocate 20% of what comes in, and we're gonna create a basic here. So our so our price of our product or our service is going to be 1K. Let's say that it's 1K. So 20% of 1K is $200, right? So let's do this. $200. Pretty simple. What that means is every single time someone buys, $200 goes to the sales department. Now, without getting into the semantics just now, because I want to keep this basic first, 20% allocated to the department is one way to sustain the department of sales, because it will be separate, it will be departed from the main core of the business, fulfillment. And let's take examples like coaching, because it would be very fitting. We are running a coaching business. 20% allocated to the sale is a healthy number. Some people might think that's too high. Some people might think that's not high enough. Again, this is going to flex and be very subjective to what you're running. Me, 20% basic, and it'll make more sense as I go along. So, you cannot make a sale without marketing. No one knows you exist. So, marketing. I would say, and I have no exact numbers in my mind, of course, but I'm going with this. I would say 25%. Yeah. I'd say 25%. Let's see where we're at. Of what we make is spent on marketing. Now, marketing sometimes can be free. If you're, for example, someone that attracts a lot of leads through YouTube, you don't have to worry as much as someone that's getting all their leads from paid ads. So, for example, someone comes in, they invest $1,000. $250 of that is going straight back into ads to attract more leads. 25% of that also might not be breaking down just to ads. It might be broken down to, hey, let's say, for example, we've got a virtual assistant on board, and the virtual assistant helps schedule our posts and keeps everything flowing out nicely. We are then in a position to take the 25% allocated towards marketing and go, okay, well, it's fair to say that 5% of this marketing should go to the VA, for example. So the 250 gets split up. So the 50 goes, let's just use a week as an example. Yeah, one of these a week. The $50 goes to the VA, for example. It goes to that service. And it could also mean subscriptions, smaller details. We want all of it together. What it might cost you to have some kind of social media manager software so you can post on 5 different platforms at once. The subscription services you might need, that's going to be within, as a basic, the 25% allocated for marketing. That's what I'm going to say right now. That may change. Sales, marketing, fulfillment. I always get confused how to spell this one, but fulfillment. What does that mean? Well, that looks like in this coaching business, actual coaching. Hey, here's my offer, for example. In 90 days, I'm going to double your investment that you spend with me. I'm going to double it. Within 90 days, we're going to earn twice the amount, at least, that you invested to work with me. That's my promise, right? And if I don't, I'll continue to not change anything, give you access to everything, continue to work and focus on you if for any reason we haven't hit that target. For reference, that should be pretty fucking easy. I've had people 9x their investment. 4x is a pretty standard thing. So 2x is pretty easy. But I know for me, I fucking show up. There is no way in hell I'm not going to show up. So what that means for me is when I focus on fulfillment, I know if marketing is honest, this is another thing about marketing, you always want to be honest. There's a lot of cheap tricks. You want to be very honest in your marketing. Your sales process wants to be authentic. Now, if you listen to anything that I do, you understand that I teach the no pressure close method. What does that mean? Close a deal without pressuring anyone, like zero pressure. Not low pressure, no pressure. And that's what I teach in the 90-day challenge also. But fulfillment, we've got 45 taken up already, right? So I would like to get another 25% on fulfillment costs. Why? Well, now we're at 70%, right? We're at 70% now. And what that means is 30% left over. For example, again, 30% left over is profit. That's a very good profit margin, 30% profit on everything that we spend. Every single time someone spends $1,000 with us, we get 300 of it clean, net, bomb, straight into our bank. And the business costs are already covered. What does fulfillment cost look like? Staff. If it's not a case of staff, what is it going to look like? Your time. If you're the business owner, if you're the core of the business, you are the individual, and you are running this coaching business, if you don't pay yourself to fulfill that, you'll be in a situation where you'll continue to work. And this is another thing about running your own business. You don't often prioritize yourself. You can be left in a situation quite often where you've got no money, but the business is running and growing, with 25% allocated to fulfillment. And if you are fulfillment, you can decide what you do with that. You can decide whether you put that back into the business if you want. But I don't know any motherfucker out here that isn't living with some type of outgoing expense. Rent, Wi-Fi, tools, food, gym, whatever it looks like. Ideally, your percentage of fulfillment can cover your bills. That's what I like to think. Because it's so subjective, I can't go into too much detail. But there you have your trinity. That's your pie. And then the rest is left to ideally profit. And what you do, profit is 30%. What you do with that profit is going to determine what type of business owner you are actually. If you're very wise and you understand wealth and wealth generation, I've got Shadow's whistle on me. Hold on. If you understand wealth generation, you know that if you're in a situation where you spend your profit, this is a bit of wealth wisdom coming from someone that hasn't attained financial wealth yet. Well, Charlie, how do you know? Well, you can decide whether this makes sense to you. It's common sense. I can know it and not have yet achieved it. So, when you become profitable and your profits, for example, get spent on Lambos, renting nice places, basically shit you can't really afford, but it seems like you do because you've got this money coming in. Quickly, that's going to run out. And the reason that's going to run out is because you're not putting that in. And there's an argument that, yes, if you're driving around in your Lambo, it's good for your marketing. That could attract more clients. True, okay? Olive branch. However, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the basics. We're talking about business basics. It is stupid, quite honestly, to use all your profit to spend on flashy materialistic things. Your money, profit, if you're a wise business owner, either goes straight back into the business. So you can decide. You can decide to incentivize team that are making good sales. There you go, team. There's a bonus this month. Team morale, internal sales, better work culture, easier scalable company. Marketing. Do you know what? 25% isn't quite cutting it. I'm going to move that up to 35%. I'm going to pump more money into ads, for example. You can decide to do what you want with your profit. You can decide to either bump that marketing budget up. So say you move that up 10%, well, profit then goes to 20%. But you're always working with 100% because that's the pie. You can decide what to do with your profit is the point. You can incentivize even your clients or students. Hey, by the way, anyone that comes in and I don't know, achieves the workbook in the first 14 days, gets $50. I don't know what kind of culture or offer it is, but the point is specifically, you can do whatever you like with your profit, and it would be very wise for it to benefit your business if you pull it back into your business. Here's another thing you can do with your profit. Instead of spending it on material, instead of spending it, and if you've read any financial book, this is spoken about quite explicitly. You don't want to buy something that is a liability. I believe it was in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which I haven't even read. I don't read too many of these books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. But the point is, you have assets and liabilities. And if you, for example, if you use your profits to invest into property, and you know what you're doing with property, you can use your profit to invest in property. You invest it initially, and ideally that property gives you more cash flow every single month, gives you more net every single month. If it's something that appreciates over a longer period of time, well, maybe you sell a house 5 years down the line and you make 200K on it. Who knows? But you're doing something with your profit to make you more money. Maybe you leave your profits even right now, in a stable coin that, you know, is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. A Bitcoin, for example. You can put your profit in Bitcoin and just benefit from the capital gains. What would you prefer to call that? Capital gains, the appreciation, the increase in price. You'll benefit from that if you're putting your profits in somewhere that's going to make more money. You do not want it sat, because money in this case is water. And you don't want your water frozen, staying still. You don't want your money sat there. It needs to be moving. So why it's a currency, and this is a little etymology spiel here, but why it's currency, it's because it's a current. See, a current. The banks were originally the river banks, you know, that kept everything in flow. And your profit that you're getting from your business, moving that into, say, for example, an ISA account, an ICE, frozen still, it's not the end of the world. Many people do it, but they don't get rich from it. Rich people make sure that their money is moving in appreciating markets. Now, markets will always go up and down, but the point is you put your money in places that are moving, and you time it for when you withdraw that money and put it back in somewhere else, for example. This is a completely different other conversation, but my point is business basics are thinking, and this is great if you can get to 30% profit, it's fucking great. Where you become a good business owner and you move into an ultimate, great, fantastic business owner is someone that knows how to do good business. And that business, your coaching business, is based off strong foundations. It's never going to be exactly that. And that's another thing, detachment. You know, it's never going to be exactly that. But when you price your product, ideally, you've considered all of these factors. And if that went up to 3K, for example, well, you 3x everything. Right? So that becomes 600. That becomes 750. That becomes 750. And that becomes 900. But it's still based off the same percentages. And ideally, you're making way more than one sale a week at 1K. You're making way more. So, this is a good opportunity to say, doing this before you really get going is ideal, but also at the same time, you need to get going to figure this out. And that is business basics.